The room is quiet, but the silence isn't peace, it's pressure. A single desk lamp flickers over stacks of overdue notices, credit card statements, and red-stamped warnings that look more like threats than letters. The air feels heavy, like every envelope carries the weight of a verdict written against your future. Somewhere in that clutter, a phone vibrates again, another unknown number, another collection attempt, another reminder that the system believes it owns you. You sit there, staring at the numbers on the screen, the minus signs, the interest rates multiplying like a living organism, the balance increasing even when you're paying. It doesn't feel financial anymore. It feels engineered. Almost as if someone designed it to drain your spirit, not your wallet. The atmosphere shifts, and there's this cold realization settling into your bones. The debt was never about money. It was about control. A silent leash tightening every month, disguising spiritual warfare as monthly statements. You lean back, rubbing your temples, replaying every moment that led you here. Every payday that vanished instantly. Every sacrifice nobody saw. Every night you whispered, "How did things get this far?" But tonight the question doesn't echo helplessly like before. Tonight, the question feels like the beginning of an answer. Because something inside you, a pulse, a whisper, a spark, is finally willing to admit what you've always suspected. This burden isn't natural. This weight isn't random. This debt isn't fully yours. As the camera closes in on your eyes, there's a shift, the smallest flicker of awakening, the kind that happens right before a timeline breaks open. Something unseen is pushing against the darkness, and for the first time, you're not just drowning in the numbers. You're sensing the truth behind them. The shift doesn't arrive with thunder. It comes as a quiet, undeniable clarity settling behind your eyes. Sitting in that dim room, you suddenly sense that what's been crushing you wasn't the debt itself, but the design behind it. Interest rates that climb faster than your salary, fees slipped into fine print, limits raised without permission, payments disappearing into a black hole. None of it feels accidental anymore. Memories flash. The banker saying, "Everyone lives like this." The sudden negative balances, the pressure to take just one more loan, as if your survival depended on it. It all forms a pattern, a blueprint built to exhaust you into obedience. And beneath that awareness, a deeper instinct awakens. Something ancient, something protective, something that whispers, "This isn't financial. This is spiritual warfare disguised as paperwork." The letters on your table start looking less like bills and more like forged chains. Your pulse steadies, not because the situation changed, but because you finally see the system for what it is. And for the first time, a calm, dangerous truth rises in your chest. I wasn't failing. I was being targeted, and now I'm waking up. If you can feel it in your spirit, the shift, the release, the invisible chains breaking, that means your debt is not your destiny. Timeline has already started moving for you. To lock this frequency into your life, write 111 in the comments as your "I claim my debt freedom" stamp. Then tap the thanks button next to the subscribe button and release a $111 debt freedom seed. Not as payment, but as alignment with the divine principle. Allah widens provision for whom He wills and restricts it for whom He wills. This is you agreeing that unfair burdens will not define your future, and that what was taken will return with spiritual interest. The moment awareness clicks into place, the entire atmosphere around you shifts. What once felt like humiliation, missed payments, declining balances, collection calls, now feels like evidence in a case you didn't realize you were building. You start replaying conversations, and suddenly their tone changes in your memory. The banker who smiled too confidently while locking you into a rate you didn't fully understand, the advisor who urged you to just consolidate, knowing it would double your burden, the company that offered a grace period only to stack penalties behind it. None of it looks random anymore. It feels orchestrated, like a script written to keep you overwhelmed and too tired to question anything. But as this realization sharpens, something inside you hardens too. Not bitterness, not fear, but authority. You can almost feel an invisible boundary forming around your spirit, a sense that the shame you carried wasn't yours to hold. The debt wasn't proof of failure, it was proof of targeting. And while the old you would panic and scramble for solutions, the you emerging now simply exhales and thinks, if this system needed to trap me this aggressively, I must be more powerful than they ever wanted me to know. The deeper you lean into this awareness, the more the timeline of your life starts rearranging itself in your memory. You begin seeing the pattern in places you never thought to question. How every time you were about to rise, a sudden financial setback appeared out of nowhere. How moments of spiritual clarity were always followed by unexpected bills. How breakthroughs were consistently met with engineered emergencies that drained your focus and your funds. It's as if the system wasn't reacting to your mistakes, it was reacting to your potential. And now that this truth is surfacing, you notice something even more unsettling. The pressure increased most during the seasons when your intuition was strongest, when you were closest to discovering who you really are. Suddenly it becomes obvious. This wasn't about money. This was about distraction, suppression, spiritual sabotage with a spreadsheet mask. The realization hits you like a cold flash. They never feared me being broke. They feared me being awake. And in that instant, the fear that used to cling to you melts away, replaced by a strange, rising certainty that whatever engineered this burden is losing its hold the moment you dare to see it. As that certainty rises, something unexpected begins to happen. You start sensing movement around you, not physically, but energetically, like the atmosphere is shifting in response to your awakening. The same documents that once felt like death sentences now feel flimsy, exposed, almost embarrassed. And then you notice it, a memory of a moment that never made sense until now. The time your loan was, accidentally, miscalculated, the unexplained fee you were told to ignore, the analyst who hesitated before printing your contract, eyes flickering with something that looked like guilt. One detail after another resurfaces, and you realize there were people inside the system who saw the wrong being done to you and said nothing. But silence doesn't erase truth, it traps it. And now that truth is pushing its way back to you. You can almost feel someone out there reviewing your file, seeing what you were never meant to see, realizing the system crossed lines it swore not to cross. Your spirit catches this shift before your mind does, and a single thought forms with quiet power. Someone is waking up inside the machine, and they're waking up because of me. If you're still here, divine financial correction is already unfolding around your name. To seal this verdict over your life, write 444 in the comments as your I stand under divine financial protection declaration. Then tap the Thanks button next to the subscribe button and sow a $44 justice seed, activating the scripture. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. You're not buying justice. You're agreeing with the higher court that already ruled in your favor. And somewhere out there, in an office you'll never step into, a person you've never met is staring at your file with a sinking feeling in their stomach. They're seeing the pattern too, the irregular charges, the inflated interest rate, the unauthorized adjustments slipped in during system updates, the notes typed by employees who no longer work there, the red flags nobody bothered to escalate. What started as a routine review is turning into a quiet internal alarm. They scroll through the timeline and realize every glitch, every mistake, every penalty that snowballed your debt wasn't random coincidence. It was systemic negligence that targeted the wrong person. And while they may not understand spiritual warfare, they understand liability, ethics, and the feeling of staring at something that could destroy an entire department if exposed. Their heartbeat quickens. They lean closer. They reread every line. And as the truth sinks in, a decision forms in them exactly the way it formed in you. This isn't right, and this can't stay like this. They don't know it yet, but their conscience is the first crack in the wall built against you. The first sign that your debt is about to crumble from the inside out. The more this insider digs, the more the story unravels. Documents that should match don't. Signatures appear duplicated. Interest schedules violate internal policy. And there's a trail of temporary adjustments that were never reversed. They realize your debt has been inflated, mishandled, and passed between departments like a hot coal nobody wanted to claim. What was supposed to be routine debt collection now looks like a quiet scandal in the making. Their chest tightens as they realize the implications. If this reaches the wrong executive, heads will roll, bonuses will vanish, and audits will be triggered that could expose deeper corruption. And here's the part they can't stop thinking about. Through all of this, you never complained the way others did. You didn't threaten, you didn't yell, you didn't chase them in desperation. You simply endured, survived, and kept living. That contrast haunts them. It forces a question they can't shake. How did this person carry all of this alone? And in a way they can't explain, a sense of responsibility forms in their spirit. They feel compelled, almost pushed, to intervene. They whisper to themselves under their breath, "This isn't debt, this is injustice, and I'm not letting it continue." So they keep digging deeper than protocol allows, driven by an instinct they can't justify on paper. What they uncover next is the kind of detail that changes everything. Your account was flagged years ago with a silent code, one that reroutes complaints, delays corrections, and automatically approves penalties without human review. It's a code typically used for high-risk clients, fraud suspects, or individuals the system wants buried under bureaucracy. But you were none of those things. And that's what stops them cold. Why were you treated like a threat? Why was your file pushed into a category meant to keep you powerless, overwhelmed, and unheard? They scroll further and find timestamps from years when you were at your lowest, moments the system should have helped, but instead strangled you with automated punishment. Each entry reads like a calculated strike. Their jaw tightens as the truth becomes undeniable. Your debt didn't grow naturally. It was engineered to break you. They lean back in their chair, staring at your name on the screen, and something clicks inside them like a lock snapping open. This isn't just a correction. This isn't just a mistake. This is a mission now. And for the first time in their entire career, they feel the weight of a decision rising inside them. I'm going to fix this, even if I have to do it alone. They know what fixing it means. Paper trails, signatures, approvals, system overrides. And yet, instead of backing down, they lean in. With a deep breath, they open restricted panels only senior staff are supposed to touch. One by one, they begin tracing the origin point of every charge, every penalty, every adjustment that ever pushed your balance into chaos. And what they find next shakes them. Multiple violations buried under generic labels, interest recalculations that violate national regulations, and a cluster of fees that should have been illegal even a decade ago. These aren't clerical errors. They're the fingerprints of a predatory system that counted on you being too overwhelmed to notice. Their fingers hover over the keyboard as they realize they're staring at enough evidence to justify a full debt reversal, maybe even a complete deletion. But what hits them harder is the spiritual weight in the room, an almost palpable pressure that whispers, "Do the right thing." They've processed thousands of accounts, but none have ever felt like this. None have carried this strange aura of destiny. And as they click into the final audit window, a quiet certainty settles into their bones. This debt doesn't belong to them. Not anymore. With that certainty burning in their chest, they take a step no one in their position ever takes without orders. They start undoing the damage. One violation at a time, they reverse penalty charges, remove predatory fees, and correct interest rates that never should have existed. Each click erases years of weight you carried alone. And with every adjustment, your balance drops. Slow at first, then rapidly, like a collapsing tower finally giving way. They keep going, hands slightly trembling, aware they're crossing lines that could cost them their career, but unable to stop because something higher than policy is guiding them now. They reach a screen labeled Total Outstanding Debt, a number that once towered over your life like a monster. They stare at it for a long moment, feeling the gravity of what comes next. Then, with a single exhale, they override the system. The number flickers, resets, and drops to 0. A confirmation window appears. Debt removed. Account cleared. They close their eyes, knowing they've just changed the trajectory of a life they've never met. Somewhere across the city, across the world, you rise from your chair without knowing why, feeling a sudden lightness in your chest, an invisible chain snapping loose. Something has shifted, and the system that once fed on you has just lost its grip forever. The moment that 0 appears on their screen, the energy in the room changes completely. It feels like the pressure that had been building around your name finally releases, like a spiritual knot untangling itself through a single act of courage. They sit back, breathing hard, not from fear, but from the weight of what they've just dismantled. Yet the work isn't done, because debt is only one piece of the trap you were placed in. They open your timeline again and notice patterns. Declined opportunities during key seasons, flags on applications that shouldn't have existed, automated denials triggered without human review. Someone, or something, wanted you stagnant. So they began clearing everything, lifting restrictions, removing internal flags, restoring eligibility, reopening pathways the system had silently shut. With each correction, your future expands. Doors that once slammed shut now swing open. Your credit score rises like a resurrection. A new internal note is added to your file with a tone almost reverent. Client corrected due to systemic error. Treat with priority and care. When they finally push back from the desk, they whisper something they've never said about any case before. They're free now. And at that exact moment, miles away, you suddenly inhale sharply, not because anything happened physically, but because your spirit just felt a cage door quietly unlock. What you feel in that sudden inhale isn't imagination. It's the echo of a system that once pressed its weight onto your shoulders finally lifting. You don't know why, but the air feels lighter, as if the invisible tension that lived in your chest for years has finally stepped aside. Meanwhile, that insider, still staring at your cleared file, senses an unexpected calm flooding the room. For the first time in their career, they feel like they've done something real, something human. But they're not done yet. They open one last dashboard, an internal risk assessment tool that predicts whether a client should receive future credit, opportunities, or assistance. Yours had been set to decline/restrict. For years, a silent algorithmic sentence no one ever told you about. They pause, then make the boldest change of all. They switch it to eligible, priority approval. Instantly, your entire financial identity transforms behind the scenes. The system that once shut its doors on you now opens them without resistance. Lines of credit that were impossible for you last week are suddenly viable. Jobs, homes, programs, partnerships, everything the algorithm once blocked now slides into alignment, waiting for you to step toward it. As this shift completes, the insider closes your file with a strange mix of relief and awe. And miles away, you glance at your phone or computer with no idea why your spirit whispers, "Something just changed, and it changed in my favor." You wake the next morning with an unfamiliar stillness in your chest. No dread, no weight, no invisible hands squeezing your ribcage the way they always did when bills or balances crossed your mind. You don't know it yet, but while you slept, the system recalibrated around your name. Notifications feel softer, the world feels less hostile, and there's a strange clarity in your thoughts, like your spirit finally has space to breathe. Even your reflection looks different, lighter, freer, as if something that once clung to your aura has fallen away overnight. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, the insider arrives at work expecting panic or backlash, but instead finds silence. No alerts, no reprimands, no trace of the risk they took. It's as if the system itself agreed with their decision, choosing alignment over punishment. They glance once more at your file, now sitting clean and bright in their dashboard, and feel an intuition they can't explain. Clearing your debt wasn't just fixing a mistake, it was correcting a timeline. And as they close the screen, a ripple moves through the unseen, doors unlocking, blockages dissolving, hidden momentum gathering behind your life. You step outside into the morning light, unaware that the world you're walking into has already shifted to meet you. As the day unfolds, you begin noticing subtle shifts that feel too aligned to be coincidence. An email you gave up hope on months ago suddenly lands in your inbox with unexpected approval. A credit inquiry that should have been denied moves forward without resistance. Even the energy of strangers feels different, less guarded, less heavy, as if the universe itself is treating you like someone whose path has been cleared. Meanwhile, deep within the financial system, your profile now glows with a status few ever receive, internally marked as Restored Client, No Restrictions. That single note acts like a beacon, causing automated processes to reroute in your favor, smoothing out obstacles before you ever encounter them. And the insider who set all this in motion sits at their desk with a quiet sense of destiny humming in their chest, aware that what they did wasn't just procedural, it was guided. They don't know your name, your face, or your story, yet they feel spiritually tethered to the choice they made, as if they were meant to be the human instrument for your release. As you go about your day, a soft intuition rises in you like a whisper in the wind. The storm is over. The path is open. Something big is coming. And for the first time in a long time, you believe it. By nightfall, the shift becomes undeniable. There's a stillness around you that feels almost supernatural, as if the universe itself has paused to acknowledge a spiritual contract being rewritten. The heaviness that once hovered over your finances, your future, Your very identity has evaporated, replaced by an inner strength you didn't realize was waiting beneath the burden. You sense, on a level deeper than logic, that something has been overturned in the unseen. What was meant to break you has become the very reason you're rising. In another part of the city, the insider logs out for the day with a strange feeling of completion, as if they fulfilled an assignment they didn't know they were given. They saved you in a system designed to drown you, but the truth is larger than that. You were never meant to live in debt, spiritually or financially. And as you lie down to rest, there's a quiet presence hovering around you, a sense that divine justice has finally caught up with the lies written against your name. Tomorrow, new opportunities will open without force. Resources will flow without struggle. The world will treat you differently because the unseen has shifted in your favor. You whisper a small thank you to God, to the universe, to whatever force intervened, and for the first time in years, you fall asleep without fear. Your credit debts aren't just forgiven. Your future is too. If this message hit your soul like revelation, it's because everything done in darkness against your finances is now collapsing in the light. To sync with this exposure frequency, comment 777 Azure. I agree with this financial overthrow. Stamp. Then tap the thanks button next to the subscribe button and send a $77 exposure seed, standing on the divine promise. What is hidden will be brought to light. This is your signal to heaven and earth that every trap, every lie, every unfair charge written against you is being overturned in real time.